Just a quick video today because interesting things happened and I want to talk about them. Not interesting things happened to me, just interesting things happened in the world and I feel like talking about it because, let's be honest, if I don't say anything about it here, I'm probably never going to get to talk about it. So, yeah, let's do it. Also, Ze Frank poster. For those who don't know, I really like independent video games. It's a scene that I've kind of followed for a while and have been more or less toying with the idea of really learning programming to maybe make games myself. I think that would be fun, and I think after this I'm looking more into, I think I want to do that just in my spare time. It seems like it would actually probably be worthwhile. So one of the more interesting parts of indie game development is game jams, where just a bunch of people get together and they all program for a couple days, and you make very small games or very incomplete games in a couple days, but everybody just, looks over each other's shoulders, sees what they're working on, contributes ideas. It seems like a very cool group atmosphere. I think that's just really neat, and I can imagine only good things coming from it. Probably due in part to the success of Indie Game the Movie. There was a studio, Maker Studios, who is a big YouTube company, and they decided they wanted to sort of get together a game jam and make it more interesting for a larger audience than display it on YouTube and hopefully get more people interested in that. So they gathered up, I think, 12 indie game developers and had them all just go to LA, and I guess the original plan was pretty much just to have a game jam and film it, and that sounded really cool. So that was neat. And it got kind of bigger, and then Mountain Dew and a few other companies decided to sponsor it, and that is probably where things first started to get a little bit scary. It turned very much into a silly reality show, or at least it would have. It didn't. Well, we'll get to that. Drinks that were not Mountain Dew were banned from anywhere that cameras were. People had to hold the cans and bottles correctly and also look as though they were really enjoying it every time they took a sip of Mountain Dew. It was just silly. Like, all the developers were like, this isn't right. But they all more or less just went along with it, since it probably still would have actually broadened the audience for things like game jams that not many people probably know exist. Maybe a little of that kind of thing is worth putting up with if it ends up being a good thing. But one guy who was kind of running it turned out to be kind of terrible. He asked questions like, do you think the teams with female programmers are at a disadvantage? Long story short, the developers were just like, no, this isn't right. If they're gonna seriously press stuff like this onto us, we're just gonna not do it. And that kind of takes courage. Like, that's an intense decision to make. But I have a lot of respect for those people. Some of them are, like, contractually obligated not to talk about it, but there are some links to the good articles that have been written about it in the description. You should definitely read those. I think they're way more interesting stories than that reality show probably would have turned out to be. And I just can't help but kind of want to be a part of a community that actually goes through and decides that they're just not going to put up with the terrible treatment that is kind of expected in that sort of mass market appeal programming. Another thing I found out is that the YouTube, I guess it must be a multi-channel network. I actually haven't looked into these things as much as I probably should have, but Maker Studios, who is a large YouTube-based company, they make a bunch of money, is now owned by Disney, and it kind of scares me that YouTube might become the type of thing where you only see stuff that large companies like you to see, and it's kind of like the opposite of what I think the internet in general, and YouTube more specifically, should be like. I'm really glad that Vsauce and Veritasium and all those other channels can get just as many views as the really stupid stuff, and I want it to stay that way. On that note, I kind of would, however, like to foster more community and audience participation in our own YouTube channel. That might sound kind of like defeating the point, because most of this video was talking about how pandering to people is terrible, but I like the feedback part of this whole thing. It's interesting to me. I don't think telling people to like and subscribe is necessarily a bad idea. Of course, we should probably make sure that the stuff we're making is not wasting people's time. I hope it's not wasting people's time. But for now, on the off chance that you do not know me or my brother personally and have made it this far in the video, just go comment. I want to know who you are and why you think I am worth watching for how many minutes this video is. I don't expect any results, but please, if you watched this far, go ahead. It would be interesting. Okay, I think I've rambled for a little while. I had fun. Yeah, enjoy. Okay, bye.